Welcome to the Industry 4.0 podcast with Grantek.
Hi, and welcome to today's episode of the Industry 4.0 podcast with Grantek. The Industry 4.0 podcast with Grantek delivers a look into the world of manufacturing with a focus on stories and trends that can lead you to better solutions. Our guests share tips and outcomes to help improve your productivity. My name is Dave McKenna. I'm practice leader at Grantek in smart packaging, focusing on label verification systems, ensuring the right product in the right package the first time and all the time, as well as integrating with code daters and other packaging solutions. So today, I'm very happy to be joined by Geoff Nelson of SafetyChain Software. Geoff is the Vice President of Technical Solutions at SafetyChain. SafetyChain is a digital plant management platform for process manufacturers, trusted in more than 2,000 facilities to improve plant-wide performance. It unifies production and quality teams with data and insights, as well as tools, and delivers real-time operational visibility and control by eliminating paper and point solutions. That's a big dream of the world these days. We're actually starting to get there, but I think, or maybe you're going to tell me we're all the way there for those of you who've got SafetyChain going. Geoff's been with SafetyChain for over 11 years. Prior to his current role, Geoff held senior leadership roles in engineering, software development, and product development. So Geoff, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Excited to be here. Looking forward to talking about Industry 4.0 with you. I know we've been trying to get this on the calendar for a while now.
Yes, we've had some calendar tag life, things, business, all of it has happened. But now Geoff and I are together. So great. Thanks for coming on the show, and great. Looking forward to this conversation. So first, before we get into industry and software and manufacturing and all that, let's talk to you. What's your career story? How did you get into manufacturing? Where'd you start out?
Yeah, so I was doing did mechatronics in college at Chico State, and which is mechanical, electrical, and computer systems. Worked for a small manufacturing site in college that made test systems for food and beverage, to different like PCB manufacturing, just a very small manufacturing environment where I was an engineering intern, basically. After college, got into industrial engineering controls for steel manufacturing. So did about 6 years working at a steel mill, doing automation controls. My office was, on the plant floor, underneath an exit pulpit. I had to put my PPE on to go out and go to the bathroom. Was just living, breathing.
Awesome.
For a few years there, and it kind of became a way of life. I'm working at SafetyChain now in software, but go and visit customers. Being on that plant floor feels like at home. You know what I mean?
Oh, and that's a great, that's a great piece. So first, I love the intern part, and I think we've heard this from another guest at one point. Great to get. Those are great opportunities when a student can finally see what is out there, what is manufacturing, what's the world, and see some of the opportunities. And glad that kind of interesting. You started in food and bev and then moved to steel, and then now I'm going to say SafetyChain is more of a food and bev thing, or no, because people in steel or other heavy industry are looking, they're doing quality measurements with this as well.
We're more in food and beverage and like consumer packaged goods, but mostly in food and beverage right now. I do think coming from steel manufacturing into food, you validate a lot of the same types of things in quality and operations. Manufacturing's, for the most part, manufacturing, I'd say, across. You care about the same things. Maybe there's a different regulatory body or something, but a lot of the same components.
A lot of the same. Okay, awesome. We're going to start with a riddle. So I'd like to see what the AI can spit out these days. It's getting better, and it will getting better every day. So here's a riddle for you. I have rivers without fish. Well, this is off to a great start. I have rivers without fish and roads without cars. I have deserts without heat. I have mountains without height and canyons without depth. What am I?
Rivers without fish.
Can you defeat the AI?
Are you a map?
I am a map. Well done.
Awesome. That's pretty good. AI popped that out, huh?
That was a clever one. Maybe the AI or it stole it because somebody pushed it into the training system at some point. That's the thing. Is did it really think it up or did it just find it? Is it
That's
really just Google
really,
searching to make that kind of thing?
yeah.
Don't know. With a chatbot interface, that you need someone smarter than me to tell. Maybe I'm completely wrong on even bringing that up. I think it was a little wordy today. If it had only done two, maybe because it did rivers, roads, deserts, mountains, canyon. It did five. If you had been a little less wordy AI, it might have been harder.
Yeah.
So change your prompts, I guess. Well done. So one question we'd like to ask every guest, Industry 4.0, what does it mean to you? There's usually 100 definitions. It can be broad to all sorts of different things. What is it to you? How do you see it?
Yeah, it's a good question, and you've been hearing it for a long time, right? I think to me now it means honestly a revolution of doing things differently in manufacturing. I think for a long time you do a little evolution, just make incremental changes, but we've been doing things for a long time with the same results. I'd say, and maybe specifically in food and beverage, but how do we leverage technology to improve the things that we're doing? Take like foodborne illness as an example. There's been no real tangible improvement over 20 years with all the data we're collecting, the processes we've changed, the things we've been trying. How do we improve that by making a huge step forward with Industry 4.0 by taking the data we have, making decisions with it, maybe asking questions that we don't even know we can ask today?
And I think a lot of I'm just trying to think of the volume of paper that I see at facilities, which I think is one that ties definitely into digitizing and Industry 4.0 with that. And you can put in a fully automated line, and lots of people have been automating, and a lot of improvements in productivity and labor reduction and so on, and safety improvements and like actual. This is where SafetyChain throws me for. Maybe I'll ask that later, but a lot of improvements on line outputs, efficiencies, volumes, but I think quality and some of the big problems. That's I think maybe one I'm reading in from your result around foodborne illness. That's traceability. That's some other complicated quality. What are you doing with all these quality measurements that you're taking and writing on a piece of paper? Are we doing enough with them? Those are hard problems to solve. And how do you see that being done in Industry 4.0? Those big hard problems that really we're just starting to tackle in a better way now.
Well, I think part of the problem here is that you have a lot of data, and so maybe you're digitizing, right? So you're going from paper to some digital system, and then you can actually start to create trends or look at what's changing or look at how to improve something. There's a lot of companies that are already capturing data. Maybe an Excel spreadsheet is just one step above paper, or you are collecting a lot of digital information. We have a lot of sensors out there, right? I mean, you're really
Hmm.
getting systems out there, devices. We're collecting a lot of data that's maybe not going anywhere. Paper, definitely not. But even the digital data, I think something like 90% of data is siloed, stranded, and not being used. So, how do we start to look at that data together, start to create metrics? Because you cannot improve what you don't measure. But if you're measuring it and then not looking at it, you also can't improve it, right? So, once we start to look at this data and be able to leverage it to make decisions, that's really when you can start to understand, oh, there's a connection here, or how do we improve this quality metric, or how do we decrease this foodborne illness by potentially making a change, looking at another piece of the process, and improving our ability to react to it. Like you mentioned, operation effectiveness, right? How do we improve our output or our availability? We're looking at those things, very tangible pieces that we can improve by making changes to our process. How can we apply those same kind of principles to other areas, basically by collecting data, unlocking it, and relating?
Oh, great story. And I think a common thread we've heard from a lot of people as Industry 4.0 is the data piece. You're saying it is a real revolution. It is a significant change because now we're solving stuff and big problems that we've never solved. And we're doing that with collecting that data, or maybe we were doing it before, but we're putting it somewhere it's useful and we're not stranding it and we're looking at it, we're providing the ways to look at it. And so safety, so that you're actually doing this is Industry 4.0, but this is what you feel SafetyChain is accomplishing in that space.
Yeah, and moving that direction too. Yes, accomplishing it and then looking at how to improve upon it. How do we?
Sure, and that's not a simple. I mean, that's an evolving answer, right? As you,
Exactly.
Absolutely. Okay, and so do you have any kind of so who's using this? Is this executives? Is this plant managers? What's the level that's looking at this? How are people looking at this?
When we're talking about SafetyChain, it's all levels, down from the plant floor operator up to executives with reporting and dashboards and alerts. When we're talking about Industry 4.0, that needs to be the answer. I mean, there needs to be a view and ownership at all levels, and everybody uses the data differently, whether they're entering it and acting on something that they see right away, like an SPC chart or something. How do I control the system to make sure I'm within my limits? Mm-hmm. Or reacting to a large story, like how are these things pulling together across plants or across the enterprise? It really has to be from bottom up. I mean, different layers with different pieces of information, making decisions.
So the right data in the right format for the right decision maker at all levels in the organization.
Yep.
And I gotta take a segue for a sec. SafetyChain, but it's not safe. What is the safety? It's not safety like e-stop button. That's not that kind of safety. Or correct me, or let's level set. So some listeners have probably never heard of SafetyChain. So
yeah,
what's the safety in safety? Because we've been talking quality stuff.
Yeah, so we do. The initial thought where SafetyChain came from was actually the tobacco industry was looking at the analytes of the tobacco, like what's the tobacco content, how good is it, and then extended into food and beverage. Honestly, the platform we used way back then has been deprecated. We have a new one now, but it started as like, okay, how can you make sure that your food is safe? You're safe. So what does that trace? What is your safety chain to make sure all of the pieces that you've done, all the steps you've taken, is a safe environment? And it was a lot around food safety. But no, that is not all that we do. We do quality, safety, production, supplier compliance, vendor management, kind of a really broad platform. So it was born out of that safety element of what you're producing.
Got it. Safety of the product, not safety of operators, people.
Correct.
Stops. Got it. Okay, that's helpful. So do you have an example of, I guess, of a company who's kind of using this? Any sort of mini example of this and this data and data transformation, and anyone who's done it?
Could give a couple of examples. I don't know if I'm supposed to say customer names on here with their exact use cases, but
I mean, the real name isn't. I don't know that it matters necessarily.
I'll give a couple of examples. In one example, we replaced an existing digital system, which means that you come into the plant floor and people are already used to a digital system, which is not very common, actually. So they have a lot of expectations for how things should work. And so we came in and completely replaced their digital system for food safety and quality across the board across our enterprise, and allowed them to have really a scalable system instead of a plant-based, your databases at the plant level. Gave them a cloud-based system so that they could see plant to plant to plant, how are they performing across plants, having their data in the cloud, and then giving a place so that they could source all of their data into their own data lake, so that they could make their own decisions and commingle it with other systems on their side. So they're collecting quality data on the floor. They're integrating, oven temperatures into their system. They're performing record verifications, making sure they can do pre-shipment review so their product is good to go out the door, and then generating reports and dashboards for plant management, the business leaders, and then populating their own screens on their side for stakeholders at the executive level by populating their own data lake. So
I mean, and I think that's a flexible approach. Like presumably you could leverage some of the existing work that was done in populating that digital system, so you didn't have to redo everything from the data pulling, and then you're willing to hand the data over to them in their data lake because, hey, it's not going to be one vendor. The world is not a one vendor for their company. For that company, it was not a one vendor solution to do everything and everything. So you had to mesh well and migrate easily and nicely, and then be able to push the data somewhere else for the next piece of something else that's just not going to be you, as well as providing your own screens, dashboards, reports, that kind of piece.
Exactly. Providing the views and exposing internally to our software dashboards, and then yes, being flexible to allow for external systems as well.
Good. I got a question from an earlier guest. If you could wave a magic wand and implement AI in any part of your business in a secure manner, where would you target first? So now you're a vendor. So vendors for SafetyChain, let's say, where would you put the AI? Maybe you are working on this already.
With regards to SafetyChain, honestly, it would be about conceptualizing data, making relationships that we're not really making today. So, you may make a change to a supplier with incoming ingredient, and that definitely can have trickle down to how do you produce something? What is your your WIP? What does your product look like? And then what's your finished good look like? What are the relationships potentially between all of this data that may not be readily available? You have all the data. What could you string together that you're not even seeing today?
Tell me what I don't already know.
Exactly. Yeah. What questions don't I know? What questions should I be asking that I don't know that I'm not asking?
Interesting. And I wonder, yeah, no, that's a good one, because it's not just grinding out it's new functionality, new level of, and something that you'd have to ultimately have someone just stare at this stuff and poke around, or even could they, because just there's such a volume and vast quantities of data potentially to try to correlate together.
Exactly.
Could a person even do that? Oh, good answer. I like that. And that's a question I'd love. I don't know that we've heard from any. Now we're still in 2025, so we're in the infancy of I'm going to say I've declared it officially on this podcast. We're in the infancy of AI. There's still lots more to come with AI. It's generating cat pictures and important things like that, and deep fakes and all that. But is it going to tell us patterns and things that no one has even thought to go see, because no one had a clue that this would connect to that and this connects to that? Interesting question. If you had to ask someone a question, if there was an Industry 4.0 question that you'd want to ask somebody, what would it be, and what would you want to hear from someone else?
Talking Industry 4.0, we have a lot of data. We're going to continue to have a lot of data. We talked about a little bit earlier about that siloed data or stranded data. What is some data? What's the first bit of stranded data you would act on, and why? Like, why is it important? Why is it stranded? How would you act on it?
And if there's so much of that, I mean, that's a good question. And there's so much of this siloed data, and there's a bunch of questions that come from this. One is, does it matter? I guess, what's your experience? Maybe I'll ask you a question from your question. If there's so much of the siloed data, does it matter? Is that important stuff, or have you seen examples of that being important? Have you seen, or is it siloed because no one cares? And you know what? We don't really need that, but we have to collect it for some regulatory requirement. And if they call us, we'll pull a download out of it. Or is that useful stuff? What have you kind of seen around the siloed world?
I think it's both, honestly. I mean, yeah, you see that you're collecting it because somebody told you to collect it. So you're getting a large number of oven temperatures, for example, but you only look at it because you're told to look at it, right? You care about the exceptions or their variations too large for food safety and quality, as an example. So there's a lot of data you don't care about. And then maybe, why are we collecting it all? Because somebody told us to. And then there's still value, I think, in the transactional, the data about your products. There's value in that. I don't think we've mined what we can mine out of that. Meaning, what decisions can we make out of that temperature? Is there something we're not seeing before? In a past life, we did temperature limits. So if you got outside of this temperature, you're going to have some bad product. If you got below this temperature, you're going to have some bad product. And then we realized the temperature variation, even within those bands, was causing product issues. We didn't know that until we dug into the data deeper and analyzed the outputs with the inputs. And so for a very long time, we were just looking at, were we within the limits? And then realized, if we had a sharp variation band, we had a problem too.
Which gets to that, how do I know what I even need to know to look at it? And hopefully that AI is just going to magically tell me, there's a connection between the variation in the bands and your product quality. Okay. No, good question. I think interesting thought. We've talked mostly about a lack of stuff being collected, but if you could magically, and I assume you can plug stuff into SafetyChain to just pull from whoever, wherever, and then have that AI look at it, that's that dream state of no one has to put thousands of hours into analyzing, and magically the AI just spits out everything we need to know about where we need to go look. But good. Yes, another question. What else would you want to see? Let me ask one or two more questions about SafetyChain. Is it positioning as an ERP type piece, or is this quality pieces, or again, you're like walk me through a little more background on what are the elements of SafetyChain and parts and pieces and areas?
Yeah, good question. So you said earlier, SafetyChain is a plant management platform. We really position ourselves as a platform because of our broad use cases. So we do the safety, quality, production, and vendor management, supply compliance, which is a lot of different areas, right? A lot of slices. And we really live as that glue on the plant floor. And we like to work with your MES, with the ERP, and integrate to these systems with a spec management system so that you have your sources of truth. Your ERP might have your spec or your item master, and that should be the source of truth. And we would like to get that information into our system so we know what we're doing, and then can send back, here are the quality metrics, here are the safety metrics for your product. So the ERP might know, I'm going to release this product because it hits all the requirements, for example.
Got it.
We may want the data from your MES or from PLCs or from Ignition or something to understand, here's your temperatures. Now I'm going to make a decision. There's some business logic in SafetyChain that says this was out of compliance. Now I'm going to tell your ERP, right? And so we like to live in that ecosystem, live as that platform on the plant floor, like that. Like I said, the glue kind of the system between it all.
Awesome. A middleware that can do more than just a middleware that can run in the middle. Man, this is great quotes in podcasting right here. A middleware that can actually make some decisions, do some business logic, or not. If it really shouldn't be, it just pumps it up to, hey, ERP should be calling the shots on that one, or ERP should be doing this, or the plant floor should be doing this. You can sort of increase or decrease the level of stuff you're doing depending on the company and what they're doing where at what levels.
And then the base level is the digital transformation part, right? Getting rid of paper, digitizing, your data, allowing your audits to be done much quicker than they are today, from days to hours, and allowing pre-shipment review, operator reviews. It's a lot going on there at the operator plant floor level and reporting.
Excellent. Paper dies hard, but it can be killed. You've heard it here on the Industry 4.0 podcast. It can go. It dies hard, but it can go. Well, excellent. Well, thank you, Geoff, for coming on the show. Appreciate the conversation, and very glad to hear about SafetyChain. And again, a little bit around your career and your story.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, it's good. Great chatting today. Appreciate your time.
And thank you. And thank you to everyone listening. We would love to hear from you as well. Please follow Grantek on LinkedIn to stay up to date with everything we are doing. Subscribe to the Industry 4.0 podcast with Grantek, wherever you get your podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or thoughts, please send them to info@grantek.com. And thanks for joining us, and hope you'll join us again next time on the Industry 4.0 podcast with Grantek.